never imagined that our car breaking down on a quiet country road could turn into the most unexpected experience of my life. The late afternoon light settled gently over the fields beside us, warm and fading, while the faint smell of rain on warm asphalt mixed with the chamomile tea from my thermos. The ticking of the cooling engine created a quiet rhythm that felt both ordinary and strangely peaceful. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and write in the comments which city you are listening from. It means a great deal to us. Even now, I remember knowing that something unforgettable had begun to unfold in the most ordinary way. I was 72 years old when it happened. My husband Robert had been gone for 12 years, and I had lived alone in our modest house ever since. The years had taught me a gentle acceptance of solitude, though the melancholy of it never fully left. My days followed a quiet pattern that kept me grounded. Each morning I prepared chamomile tea in the kitchen where afternoon light would later fall across the faded carpet in soft patterns. I spent hours reading or tending to small tasks, the familiar creak of the floorboards accompanying me like an old friend. Evenings were spent in the company of memories, the absence of companionship a steady presence rather than a sharp pain. Robert had been my anchor, not through grand romance, but through the simple warmth of his being there, the way he noticed when the house grew too still. My stepson David and I had drifted after his father's passing. He was 52 now, with his own life and quiet distances that I never pressed against. Yet when he unexpectedly offered to drive me to visit distant family, I accepted with a hope I barely admitted to myself. The trip had felt like a small bridge. The car began making odd sounds miles from anywhere, and then it simply stopped. Steam rose gently from the hood as we sat in the sudden silence. The smell of chamomile lingered between us while the light shifted toward evening. After trying to call for assistance with limited signal, we realized we would need to spend the night nearby. A small hotel appeared at the next turn, its sign glowing softly. We gathered our things and walked the short distance. I remember the moment I opened the door to our only available room, the quiet click of the latch marking the beginning of something neither of us had planned. When we stepped inside, David moved with a calm and deliberate presence that filled the small space without demanding attention. He was a man of few rushed movements, soft-voiced and unhurried even in this inconvenience. His hands remained steady as he set down our bags and checked the heater, the warmth in his eyes reflecting a trustworthiness I had not fully recognized before. We exchanged pleasantries about the long day and the unexpected stop, simple words that felt different in this new setting. He asked if the room was warm enough for me. I noticed something about him then that I did not expect, a gentle attentiveness that echoed his father in the most unexpected way. Once inside that small hotel room, the space felt immediately closer with both of us moving through it. David began seeing what could be done about our situation, making calls and checking maps on his phone, the sound of his steady breathing noticeable in the quiet. The faint smell of metal from the car still clung to our clothes while the vibration of the old heater made the walls feel nearer. The room had shrunk around us in a way that brought a subtle awareness of his presence, though I kept a respectful distance, and he gave no sign of discomfort. I found myself standing closer than I had planned while he worked, watching the careful way he approached even this small problem. He did not comment. To steady myself, I performed small domestic rituals that felt grounding. I brewed tea, with the small kettle provided, its gentle steam rising between us. I straightened the thin curtains and arranged our few belongings on the dresser, washing a cup in the tiny bathroom sink as if these ordinary acts could help me process the unusual feeling of not being alone. The light outside dimmed further, and the room took on a warmer tone. For the first time in many years, the quiet held two people instead of one, and I felt the profound weight of that companionship without needing to name it. The calls about the car created a natural pause in our efforts. Conversation began with small talk about the weather that had turned to rain and the neighborhood we found ourselves in, minor details about the house I kept alone. Then it shifted organically into something more personal. He asked a gentle question about whether the trip had been too much for me. I answered more honestly than I intended, speaking of the years that had passed since his father left us. He listened without interruption. In turn, I learned one significant fact about his life, that he had carried his own quiet grief after a marriage that ended and children who had grown distant in their own ways. His words carried a double meaning when he said, "Sometimes things break down, so we finally have to look at what really needs fixing." On the surface, it was about the car. Beneath it felt like something deeper about the years between us. I paused when I heard it, the cup warm in my hands, sensing the recognition of loneliness meeting loneliness in that small room. The rain that began outside extended our visit beyond any natural end. No other rooms were available, and the mechanic could not reach us until morning. Time simply passed unnoticed as we chose, without speaking it aloud, to remain in each other's presence. I invited him to share the soup I had brought in a thermos and the crackers from the front desk. We sat at the small table by the window, holding the same warmth of mugs between our hands while looking out at the same steady rainfall. The domestic ritual of sharing that simple meal in the limited space made the hotel room feel like an unexpected shelter rather than a necessity. He did not rush to fill the silence with plans or solutions. I did not suggest he find another place. The hours felt both longer and shorter than they were, as though the ordinary breakdown had created a second chance at connection we had both been missing. The gentle sound of rain on the roof wrapped around us while we spoke of small things and then larger ones. His presence beside me at that table carried a warmth I had not felt in years, not passionate but profoundly human. We simply existed together in that space, choosing companionship over isolation as the night deepened around our quiet hotel room. That extended time together became the moment we both shared the significant facts of our inner lives. I spoke of my years of grief, not the dramatic kind but the gentle ache of living alone, the way I missed the companionship of having someone notice when the light changed on the carpet or when the house grew too still. I told him I missed his father's presence in the ordinary moments, the way Robert would hum while fixing something small or simply sit in the same room without needing words. David listened with a self-aware patience that surprised us both. In equal measure, he shared about his marriage that had ended quietly years ago, about children grown and distant, about a life he had simplified to essentials because the weight of unspoken loneliness had become too heavy. Neither of us offered pity. Neither performed emotion for the other. The conversation had the quality of two people who had not spoken so honestly in a long time and were quietly astonished to find themselves doing so now in this unexpected place. It felt like a recognition of loneliness meeting loneliness without fanfare or solution, simply two souls acknowledging the same gentle ache. We spoke of what it meant to be seen after years of moving through the world alone. The words came slowly, wrapped in the warm light of the single lamp, carrying the profound relief of being heard. When the conversation reached its natural depth, we both grew quiet, simply present with one another in that small room, aware of something neither had yet named. The rain continued outside as a soft backdrop to the peace that had settled between us. That quiet pause, he reached across the small space and held my hand briefly, his gesture deliberate and unhurried. It was not passion but acknowledgement, a warm and steady pressure that said more than words could. I did not pull away. I simply allowed the moment, feeling the gentle strength in his fingers and the unexpected comfort it brought. The sensation carried a quiet warmth that reached deeper than the chill of the rain outside. In that touch, I understood something I had not realized I needed. I felt seen, truly seen, by someone who shared my history in ways I had forgotten. When morning came, David prepared to leave the room to meet the mechanic. We discussed something practical and forward-looking, a return visit to my house, a small plan to plant tomatoes together in the spring garden I had neglected, perhaps even a future trip to see his children, if they would have us. I watched him walk toward the repaired car from the hotel window, his figure steady against the clearing sky. After the door closed, I stood in the room for a long time, looking at the space that had held our unexpected conversation. The car waited outside, now fixed and ready, yet I understood that something else had been repaired too, something in the house of my heart and in the quiet distance that had grown between us. The ordinary breakdown had offered a second chance at connection and companionship I had thought lost. It is never too late to feel seen. Life does not stop surprising you. It only changes the way it knocks on your door.